it's looking more and more like he might be gone. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, King Dig back here, we've got to wonder. We've got to wonder right now what is going to be the end all be all of Nolan Smith this year, because I think when you look at this team and you look at the way the Eagles are structured and you look at the way the Eagles are built, there is a realistic possibility that the odd man out is going to be Nolan Smith. It's possible he could get traded. And if you look at all the players on this roster, I would say he's the most likely scenario of anybody to be moved during training camp / preseason going into the new year. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying he is the most likely guy. And I'm not sure at all how I feel about it, because if you remember, Nolan Smith going into the playoffs 2 years ago in that Super Bowl run, he was absolutely fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. I think he set an Eagles record for the most sacks in a postseason, and he was dominant. And you got to look at what he could be in the NFL. But he hurt he hurt himself in the Super Bowl. He was hurt in training camp, hurt during the year, and then the following year he goes out there and he doesn't really do anything. And it's been a big disappointment. Now, the Eagles, they go out in the offseason, they bring in Jonathan GREENARD, and to me, when you bring in Jonathan GREENARD, you're saying, and you pay Jonathan GREENARD, you're saying, we don't know if we're going to give the money to Nolan Smith, so we'll pay Jonathan GREENARD instead. And the other thing that you have to think about is Jalen Hunt is on the verge of being a superstar. That's just the facts. That's just the way it is. And because of that, and because of GREENARD, I think you're going to see Brandon Graham come back probably some point during the season like last year. Because of those things, you've got great depth on the defensive line. And I think if you look to make a move, it's going to be Nolan Smith that's going to be the guy to go. It's crazy to me, because when you look at Nolan Smith, a young edge rusher, usually the Eagles they do not like to give up on guys like that. But you just may have no choice. And I think Jalen Hunt is actually making Nolan Smith expendable. And we're going to see early in camp, we're going to see how they use Nolan Smith. I'm curious where he's going to fall in the depth of the rotation and how they look at using him in those kind of ways. Because I think that when you look at Howie Roseman and you look at what he likes to do in preseason, Howie oftentimes will go into camp like it looks like we're going to go in, like at the safety position, where you might have a few questions at a few positions. He likes to go, see how it looks, and then make a move in camp to address it if he needs to. Last year, the Eagles did the same exact thing with the cornerback, right? They had Ringo, Adoree Jackson. Those were the two guys that went to camp to start to see how everything would go. They didn't really like what they saw there, and they went out and they made a trade with the Raiders, brought in another defensive back, and this could be the case at safety this year, depending upon how the guys play safety. Now, is Cooper DeJean going to go to safety full time? That's a great question. If he does, you'll have a top 3 safety in the league by the end of the year, because he's going to be that good at safety or nickel. Wherever he goes, he's going to flourish. But the Eagles are going to go to camp and they're going to wait to see on certain positions. When they look to make a move and trade somebody, Nolan Smith is the perfect candidate. Here's a guy on a rookie contract. Here's a guy that has 2 years left on his deal after they picked up his option year. And he could be on the move. One guy that I know won't be on the move, and I think he's going to be here a long, long time, and I think he's going to do big things. That guy, let me tell you what I think he does this year. Check this out. Prize Picks is America's #1 sportsbook app. It's the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. All you have to do is pick more or less a player, get your lineup ready, then boom, you're locked in. And it's legal in almost all 50 states, including California, Florida, and Texas. And not only can you do players and pick players, they now offer team plays. And one of the things that I really like right now is I like the pick for MVP. That's right, MVP. Who's going to win it? With AJ Brown getting traded and Jalen Hurts getting so much negative talk this year, I think it's going to motivate Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to be ready for a big year. That's why I'm taking Jalen Hurts to win MVP this year. That's my pick. I'm locking it in. If you like that or you want to do something similar, all you have to do is download the app, use code HMA, play your first $5 entry, and you'll get $50 instantly in lineups. That's $50 instantly in lineups on a $5 entry. Just use promo code HMA. Link is in the description. Shout out to Prize Picks. Shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. We appreciate it so very, very much. And like I'm saying with Nolan Smith, this could be a situation where the Eagles go out and may move him if need be. Another way you could look at this possibly, if the Eagles are willing to risk that they think Nolan Smith is going to be good down the road, maybe you can get him cheap. Maybe you can get him to an extension cheaper because he hasn't lived up to it. Would the Eagles consider that if they could get a marketable discount for him on a long-term contract? Possibly. But I think the most likely scenario is that we see Nolan Smith, if they look to trade a player, it's Nolan Smith that could be gone. Now, there is an interesting article in Yardbarker. They were talking about different potential trades. And they brought out 3 guys that the Eagles could potentially trade for before week 1. And I think any of these guys that they possibly could do could include Nolan Smith in the deal. But there were 3 names, and I want to go through them kind of quickly. The first one was Deonte Banks. Now, I got to tell you, I don't see the Eagles going out and trading for Deonte Banks. That would surprise a lot of people. I think they're already good with what they have at the cornerback position, but it would be a depth move. I like Riq Woolen. I think Riq Woolen is the big X factor for this defense. So that, to me, was like, eh. And then, of course, you have MAXX CROSBY. We all know about MAXX CROSBY and the potential that he could come to Philly. The Eagles do not need a pass rusher. They do not. They have a good defensive line as is. They have a good rotation. It's funny because I was on Cilio's show yesterday, and I had made this point a few weeks ago on the show, but I was on it yesterday, and he was talking about how he likes what the Eagles do on the defensive line. He likes it. He likes how they use the edge rushers. They don't have that, 18, 19 sack premier guy, but they get guys that are good enough to get the job done. What it is, really, is the Eagles are very good at getting depth on the defensive line, and they're very good at using a rotation. So you may not get one guy with 15 sacks, another guy with 10 sacks, and then everybody else with 2 or 3. You might get 3, 4 guys with 8 to 10 sacks somewhere in there. And that's what they do. They like good depth. They like a good rotation. Now, I'm going to say this. I think Jonathan GREENARD is probably a double-digit sack guy. And I think Jalix Hunt could be a breakout star at the edge position as well. So we may see it. But the Eagles, they do good because of the depth. This is why you want your premier guys on that line to be your defensive tackles. So you got 2 first-round picks. You pay the 2 first-round picks the big money on the line, and then you have a good rotation with good depth on the edges, and you can survive and build a good defensive line that way. And that's what the Eagles are doing here. But MAXX CROSBY is another name that comes up. It's going to continue coming up. His name's going to be linked to the Eagles. We have to expect that. Do I think the Eagles would go out and get him? I think for the right price they would, because it just takes that defense to another level. However, I wouldn't put a lot of stock into it. And I do think Nolan Smith would be a guy that would probably somebody the Raiders want back in a trade. Give us first-round pick in Nolan Smith. They're getting back a young premier pass rusher, a guy with we won't say premier, but we'll say a young talent that still has the possibility of breaking out. That would make sense. And then they talk about the last guy, and we're hearing this name a lot right now for the Eagles. Grant Delpit. Grant Delpit is linked to the Eagles almost more than MAXX CROSBY right now. Zach Berman did a thing talking about Grant Delpit being a name to watch. It's mentioned here in this article. They said Grant Delpit is the most realistic trade option for Philadelphia. He plays a position of need safety and is a very underrated player. If comparing this move to another Roseman trade, think of C.J. Gardner-Johnson move a few years back. Delpit is entering a contract year with the Browns, and they have already been preparing for life without him. They drafted Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the 26th NFL draft. We liked Warren. Warren goes to Cleveland. I think Grant Delpit would be a great pickup. Now, if you do that, then obviously Cooper DeJean is not going to be playing safety full time, and that's okay. So this could be another move that we hear. There's no bigger name really being linked to the Eagles more so. Biggest name would be MAXX CROSBY. I think Delpit is coming up and more around the league more as a possible replacement for a safety for the Eagles. So you want to definitely watch out for that. With that said, I do want to take this moment to wish my daughter a happy birthday tomorrow. We are going out of town. We're going up to Hippieville, so I'll tell you all about that. But with that said, I hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you later. And of course, take care. Talk to you later. And remember, it's Howie Vision, baby. We're all just living in it. Mark says he doesn't talk about Dak Prescott being MVP. He doesn't talk or do videos on it. What is this? What is this? You can't lie to me. You can't fool us. We know your game. We know your game. And it stinks because it's 11 years of losing. And that's what the Cowboys do. And that's what they're going to do this year. And I hope, Mark, he can make every video he wants about Dak Prescott being MVP. It will never happen. Denzel Washington out. That's all, folks.
The brother screwed us.